Well, one expert is calling it Plan C, new indirect talks between the United States and Iran with the goal of restricting Tehran's nuclear program and seeking release for 3 detained Americans. Multiple sources told CNN about the renewed efforts to reach an agreement, saying there have been some indications of progress, but also adding we're just not there yet. Meanwhile, the White House has said for months that Iran could produce enough material for a nuclear bomb in just a couple of weeks, possibly even faster. My next guest is an award-winning author who writes about the U.S. policy in the Middle East, and he has written that Iran is closer to a bomb than ever before. And in an article that will be published later today, Trita says the fact that a written and formal agreement seems beyond their reach is a reflection of both a lack of political will and changing domestic and geopolitical circumstances. Trita joins us now live from Fairfax, Virginia, where he is the co-founder and executive vice president of the Kwoinsi Institute for Responsible Statecraft, a non-profit research institute and think tank. So great to have you with us. I've read your piece. It's really illuminating. I mean, there is a warning in terms of what could transpire if you don't get people talking about the future of Tehran. Why is the Biden administration taking a different and more quiet diplomatic approach with Iran right now?
Well, part of the reason why the administration has carefully moved in this direction is because of the protests in Iran and because of Iran's support for Russia. It was already very politically difficult for the Biden administration to be able to renew the Iran nuclear deal and get it through Congress. Iran is not popular in Washington in any stretch of the imagination. Having seen how the regime has clamped down so brutally and violently against protests for the last couple of months, as well as its support for Russia, it's only made that matter much worse. So on the one hand, getting that through in Washington is tough. Not doing anything is even more dangerous still, because the Iranians are moving forward with their nuclear program. So the area in which there seems to be some political feasibility of getting it done, while at the same time satisfying the need of preventing Iran's further nuclear advances, is to have some sort of an informal agreement that essentially just ends the escalation.
So what would this, understanding look like? Will the 3 detained U.S. citizens be freed as part of this deal? I mean, there are so many elements to this. This is not just about nuclear.
Certainly. I think it is crucial that the 3 wrongfully detained Americans, Iranian Americans in Iran, are released. Many of them have been there for several years, more than 7 years in one case, and it's time for them to come home. And there's going to be growing pressure on the administration if they don't get this done, particularly mindful of the fact that they were rather quick in getting Americans out of Russia. So that's one very crucial element of all of this. But while doing that, it seems that the effort is also to make sure that the Iranians do not go beyond 60% enriched uranium, which would be very dangerous if they did, potentially stopping to increase their stockpile of 60%. And in return, there will be there would not be a tightening of the sanctions as they are right now. And some of Iran's own money will be unfrozen, not in the sense that it will go back to Tehran, but in the sense that Iran can use those funds to buy food and medicine through foreign banks.
Look, and we know the IAEA is currently doing a lot of work on the ground to figure out exactly what kind of enrichment is on the go. I want to talk about the 2015 deal. I mean, we know that fell apart. We've seen a huge shift since then. But regional countries, including the likes of Oman, Abu Dhabi, also hosting meetings. The Saudi foreign minister, for example, is expected to travel to Tehran tomorrow. How important is regional support in all of this?
The last nuclear deal, the one from 2015, did not have the support of some regional powers, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Israel. But in the rest of the world, it was a no-brainer, including other regional powers, such as Oman, who helped in the early phases of that negotiation, as well as Qatar and others. But these 3 countries were opposed to it. That has now shifted. The Saudis and the Emiratis are now more open to the ideas. The Israelis still remain as the only holdout in opposing any form of an agreement with Tehran. But all of this is now taking place in a context in which regional powers are improving relations in between themselves. We've seen the normalization between Iran and Saudi Arabia, improved relations between Iran and the UAE, as well as between many other countries in the region. So the region itself is moving towards some sort of internal detente. And within that, it was important for the Iranians to make sure that they didn't have a further escalation with the US, because that could actually prevent or undermine their own efforts to improve relations with their own neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen huge shifts regionally as well in terms of bringing Iran back into the fray. Is this diplomatic approach going to require a congressional oversight? And you've already alluded to the protest action we've seen in Iran. We know the social issues that are playing out right now and the atrocities that are happening to Iranians, and of course the issue of women.
Part of the reason I think the administration is going for an informal agreement that is also not just a nuclear agreement is precisely because it will help them not having to take this through Congress. Congress will still make its opinions known on this matter, but they will have no formal authority to be able to intervene or interfere in this. Had it been a full-scale nuclear program, a nuclear deal, then it would have to go through Congress, and Congress would have an opportunity to vote it down. That would be an extremely bloody fight, one that clearly the administration is not ready for. Part of the reason why they're doing this is because they just want peace and quiet on the Iran front for the next 18 months before the election.